responding to requests from the public, whether it's to plant a tree, to take a tree down, get it pruned, or whatever the inquiry is, respond quickly. You know, when I first uh, got elected, the Shade Tree Commission, this is before computers, ancient history, but they had a form letter. So as soon as they got an inquiry, they'd send out a letter, a form letter that says, thank you for your request or inquiry. Since the Shade Tree Commission is made up with volunteers, we will get back to you. We'll respond to your request within 90 days. 90 days? You think people are going to be tolerant of that today? No. We live in a push button society. People want an answer today. I mean, I've seen situations where somebody calls in the morning, and if they don't have an answer by noontime, they're calling again and again. Well, our secretary is part-time. I mean, the secretary, usually on a daily basis or every other day, picks up the messages from the municipal building. We have, you know, the phone mail, or she'll get a email to the Shade Tree Commission email address, and she tries to respond quickly. But it's not. It's a part-time position. It's not full-time, and I'm sure it's the case with your town. So, but you try to respond within a reasonable time. If it's an emergency, that a tree is about to fall down on a house, you got to take action quickly. But you have to respond quickly. Quick story, and this goes back about 25 years ago. Um, on a particular street, uh, a homeowner came in complaining about the condition of these two trees. Actually, they were more in front of her neighbor, but he was in his 90s. So she came in and she presented us with this big limb that had already fallen down. The trees were not in good shape. And I asked the Shade Tree Commission to take a look at it. And again, they're volunteers, and they did look at it. Blah, blah, blah. Yep. Oh, you know, this was in the summer. And then, you know, this woman came back about a month and a half later. Then she came back a third time. And I said, well, I know they're working on it. And I remember that the other governing body who was in charge of the DPW said to me, John, do you want me to just tell the DPW to take that tree down? I said, let the Shade Tree Commission handle this. Well, you know, I mean, in October, November, you get these big storms. Big storm came in, knocked both of those trees down. The one tree pulled out all the wires on the block. The one other tree crushed a car, and the newspaper, big article in the record on this, and saying that they had told Commissioner Anlian, because I was on the Board of Commissioners, I wasn't the mayor at the time, that they had complained to me and I did nothing, and they had a video on the local cable television. So it looks bad for your municipal governing body. You have to act quickly. If a tree has to be trimmed or taken down, act on it, please. I may have mentioned earlier that there are some towns that don't want to have a shade tree commission because they feel it gives the commission too much power. I really wouldn't worry about that because, as I said to you earlier, when you're appointing members, one member is always coming up for reappointment every year. So if the Shade Tree Commission does something that the mayor and council really don't like, then they won't reappoint those members, and ultimately the majority will change. I don't like to say that, but everything is politics and public relations. So now, why should you have a shade tree commission? It, it, Up until the 1990s, it made a lot of sense, but there were some court decisions which said that if somebody got injured on a sidewalk trip and fall, and if the sidewalk was raised by a shade tree and the town had a shade tree commission, then the town would be responsible. And that was not a good decision for shade tree commissions. A number of towns decided, hey, we don't want to be held responsible. And so they disbanded shade tree commissions. Well, in 1996, as a result of very good lobbying by the New Jersey Shade Tree Federation and a lot of other good people involved in community forestry, they convinced the legislature to pass the Community Forestry Act. Um, it's actually signed into law, I think, in December of 1996. And one of the things it created was the license plate program, where if you get the shade tree, or we love our trees license plate, some of that money would go for community forestry programs. But the real important part of that legislation was it changed the liability standards, the language, so that the law now says, and I'm going to read it abbreviated: a shade tree commission or a member of a shade tree commission or a volunteer participating in a community forestry program is not liable for injury or death caused by a tree or shrub if the tree or shrub is on public property, public easement or right-of-way. And this additional language is, from an attorney standpoint, I like to look at the real intricate language. It says, if the tree is on public property, on a public easement, public right-of-way, or regardless of its location, is regulated by the Shade Tree Commission. Interesting language. And the local government or the Shade Tree Commission has participated in and successfully completed the training skills and accreditation program. That's why you're involved in these conference programs. And has a community forestry plan that's been approved by the state, then there's no liability. That's spectacular language if you're a tree advocate, if you're a Shade Tree Commission advocate. So what it says is, if you have a Shade Tree Commission, all the Shade Tree Commission members, or if you're a volunteer participating in a community forestry program, you're not going to be held liable for any injuries or damages if you've gotten the accreditations that you're going for right now, and it can be either as a volunteer or an employee, and you have a community forestry plan that was approved by the state. There's no liability, period. That is a gigantic plus for every municipality in having a Shade Tree Commission. That's why if you only have a committee or an advisory board, one of the things you should do as soon as this conference is over is talk to your mayor and council, your town attorney, and urge them to form a Shade Tree Commission. Because again, the language is, if you have a Shade Tree Commission or a Shade Tree Commission member, automatically exempt. Now, the legislature recognized that there are some towns that no matter what you say and do, they ain't going to form a Shade Tree Commission. But they'll have a committee, an advisory committee, and you'll have these dedicated volunteers, many of whom may be yourself, watching the program. And if you're a dedicated volunteer participating in a community forestry program, you'll be protected. But if I'm an attorney, I'm a general practice lawyer, so I sue people on occasion for injuries. And if I were suing a town because of a tree issue in the public right-of-way, and they only had a advisory committee, and their members were just on the advisory committee, I would go after them. I said, well, you're not a Shade Tree Commission. You're not a Shade Tree Commission member. And they'll say, well, I'm a volunteer participating in a community forestry program. Oh, okay. All right. Well, how many meetings do you have a year? Well, 2 a month, 24 meetings. How many meetings did you attend? Oh, well, only 9. Well, you know what, Judge, I don't consider this person to be participating in a community forestry program. He does it occasionally, but that doesn't count. So that would be the argument I would make. So why would your town, give a clever lawyer the opportunity to come after you? You form a Shade Tree Commission. All the Shade Tree Commission members are protected. You've got your educational credits. You've got an approved plan. You are protected. So if there's only one reason that a town should have a Shade Tree Commission, that's the number one reason if you're looking at liability. I mean, I think there are many other good reasons to have a group of people who care about trees and have a Shade Tree Commission in your town. But that is number one. If you don't remember anything else I say in this program, that's the thing you should remember. Talk to your mayor and council if you don't have a Shade Tree Commission and get one adopted. If they have any questions, you can call me. In my handout, I'll have my name and address and my telephone number. You may have to try to contact me a few times because I'm not really great at returning calls. Sorry. But I've gone to many towns over the years and advised them on these issues. And usually the town attorney will say, well, you know what? He's right. This is added protection for the town. Now, keeping accurate records. We have the Open Public Records Act that we talked about earlier. It was originally, the nickname was the Sunshine Law. It was opening up the back rooms of the politicians, governing officials, and letting the sunshine in so that the public can see what's going on. We also have the Open Public Records Act, OPRA, and it's important if somebody makes a request for copies of public records, your records, you have to comply within a very short period. Now, most towns have adopted a procedure where if somebody wants all the minutes of the Shade Tree Commission for the last 2 years, there's a form to be filled out, and it would be given to your chairman or your secretary. That's another reason why you need a good, efficient secretary. So as soon as the request comes in, those copies are made and provided to the person who's making the request. Extremely important, because if you don't, you're going to be fined, personally fined. All right? So don't slouch on that. Comply as soon as you can. Also, when you're keeping the records, operate under the assumption that all of your records could, at some point in the future, be looked at by the general public or a court at law. So don't be putting in negative comments about somebody who's requesting a tree to be trimmed or removed. Which reminds me also is emails. All of your emails concerning your shade tree activity are public records. So one of the other things you should be doing at the conclusion of this conference is set up emails that are all geared towards your Shade Tree Commission only. All right, you can do it through Yahoo, you can do it through the town, whatever is easier. This way, all your communications concerning the Shade Tree Commission are all of the same type of email. All right. Recognize that everything you say in your emails, it could be looked at by the public. So don't make any negative comments about anybody in your emails. The same on your text messages. It's just not a good idea. What's that? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, a couple of squirrels here are telling me that it's time to take another break. So take a few minutes, have a beverage, maybe a couple of acorns, snacks, and I'll see you in a couple of minutes.